One of the most important things in macro photography is lighting. And as a beginner, you're probably wondering, do I use natural light or do I use artificial light? And if I have to use artificial light, how hard or how easy is it going to be for me? And then what are the flaws of natural light? You see, that is a question we've all asked, and it's a state that we've all passed through. So, in this video, I'm going to share with you my own experience of which one is better, why I use which one, and which one you should use for your macro photography. I'm David Joseph at ABCD David, macro wildlife photographer based in Nigeria, and I make videos like this. So, if that sounds like something you like, consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Let's get started. Macro photography is very interesting, and the thing that makes it super interesting for me is that it's not limited to just daytime. You can shoot macro photography at night, and it's even more epic at night because I find things like spiders with prey, spiders with sac or babies, frogs, those kind of things. By daytime, it's kind of difficult to find it, and the mood and the vibe that nighttime carries is just on a whole other level. So, you see, at night, you don't have natural light because, well, that's how Earth works, right? So if you plan to shoot at night, and I think you should, I always encourage everyone to shoot at night because bugs are calm, the scenes are epic, and it just gives you a whole different experience. So if you want to be a complete macro photographer, specifically macro wildlife photographer, shooting at night is, I don't want to say a must, but it's a must. So, if you are going to shoot at night, you are going to need artificial light, and it comes in different forms, but I'm not going to dive into the forms right now. So, artificial light is going to help you a lot if you want to shoot at night. For me, I shoot at night, and that is what makes me pick artificial light as my key light, or should I say my main lighting for macro photography. But that is not the only reason, and let's assume you don't want to take the time you shoot into consideration. What other reasons should make you choose shooting with artificial light over natural light or vice versa? Before I began shooting with an actual camera, I did macro photography with my phone, so I've experienced natural light and I've experienced artificial light. That always meant I had to shoot at certain times. And when I was just a beginner, I'd shoot anytime, be it hot afternoon, and well, that wasn't very amazing. But as I got to know more about lighting and just macro photography, I began to time my shoot. I'd either shoot very early in the morning or evening time when the sun would just be, golden. And it always creates a very nice effect. But the thing is, sometimes, some days you'd go out and the light does not come out, or it's not the way you want, or it does not last long, and this for sure influences your shoot. It influences how long you can stay in the field, and it also influences the kind of pictures you get. So while it's nice, I still think that is flawed because you don't have much control over it. It's very unpredictable. And that is where artificial light shines because with artificial light you have control over the time you can go out. I mean, with artificial light you can even go out by, you know, peak daytime, even though that is not recommendable because you're going to feel the heat yourself and the bugs are going to be very active. But if you go out very early in the morning or even in the evening, when the sun goes down, you don't have to worry if you are using artificial light. But the light begins to, just go up and down, or should I say fades and then gets bright again, you don't have to worry because you have control over the light. Its consistency, its intensity, all the ETs, you just have control over it, and you determine when you leave, not the sunlight determining when you leave for you. And if you want to stay onto the night, you are very free. So I love the fact that with artificial light I can control my light, and I can and it's very consistent. Artificial light consistency goes beyond just the timing and how long I want to stay in the field to how I want to light up my subject. I can choose to light up my subject in one way, and that way will be consistent all through the photos. And speaking of consistency in lighting in macro photography, especially if you have to run focus bracketing, you need it. You see, focus bracketing is simply you taking multiple pictures of the same subject at different focus points. Now, imagine if you are taking a focus bracket and the light shift. when you are going to stack that photo, the lighting is not going to really feel balanced. The colors will not feel balanced, and that is because of how the lighting differed during the bracket. And I know brackets are just quick stuff, right? But yeah, let's be honest. Light changes very fast. What if it's in the middle of light actually changing that you take the bracket? Besides, I think it's just a kind of thing that you should never have to worry about. But if you are shooting natural light, it becomes a worry. And with artificial light, that never happens because you are able to not just get consistent lighting all through, even if you want to run the bracket multiple times, but you're able to freeze the subject. Freeze the subject. And that takes me to the next point, which is freezing the subject. You see, natural light is good. And of course, you can freeze subject with natural light, but it's not as excellent as artificial light for freezing subjects. If you ever want to shoot things like bees in flight, insects in flight, I mean, bees are insects. So, yeah, if you ever want to shoot things like that, nat- natural light is good, but may not be the best way to go. Why? Because artificial light can do that better. It freezes the subject in motion better. So, this is one reason why I also prefer artificial light to natural light in macro wildlife photography. And for freezing subjects, I recommend speed light over like a kind of continuous light because it just goes up and yeah, that's it. So this is another benefit and another reason why I use artificial light in macro photography instead of natural light. I've said a lot of things about how artificial light is better, but that isn't even the best thing about artificial light for macro photography. You see, if you are using a natural light, it's not going to be bright enough, unfortunately, at least in most situations. And what that will mean is that you will have to open up your aperture to probably the widest one or to a certain degree that it lets in enough light. And then you may have to drop your shutter speed as well. And if you've already done this too, probably you are going to end up also bumping up your ISO because you're trying to get the light to be in a certain way. And well, a lot of times that's okay, yeah, it's completely okay. But the thing is, what if you could get better results and all you had to do was get more of the subject in focus, use your base ISO, and use a shutter speed that is going to freeze the subject enough? That is where you need artificial light. You see, macro photography has very shallow depth of field. So by the time you're using something like f2.8, f5.6, you're barely able to capture things and get them in focus. What if you're trying to photograph a spider with prey with a single shot? What if you're trying to photograph a housefly and you're trying to get the eyes of it to be in focus? F2.8, f5.6, it's not going to do that for you. But if you are using something like f11, which I doubt you can use if you are using natural light. Why? Because f11 is going to really close up your aperture, thus letting in very little light as compared to 2.8 or 5.6. And remember, you're using natural light. And when it's that way, what you will want to do is drop your shutter speed. And believe me, these insects are very fast. Now, if you're trying not to drop your shutter speed or not to drop it much, you are going to increase your ISO. How many stops of light are you going to get in? How much do you want to increase your ISO? So you, of course, could end up with a nice photo, but it's not going to be the clearest image. Why? Because if you're shooting with artificial light, you can open up your aperture to the f11 and still use your base ISO and still use a fast shutter speed, and you are going to get an even better result. So this is the core benefit of using artificial light for macro photography. And combined with every other thing I've said, it's what makes me prefer artificial light for macro photography. And it's not like I don't use natural light for macro photography, but those are only on select occasions when I probably am aiming for certain effects and just want the photo to be that way. Maybe I'm not with my flash and diffuser. And then there are occasions where I combine both of them because it creates a different effect as long as you know how to use both of them together. But this video isn't me blasting natural light, it's the best form of light for photography. Just that in macro photography, things get a little bit complicated. So if you only have natural light, go for it. Besides, artificial light comes with a lot of having to understand the gear and the whole setup. And then with artificial light, you are going to need a flash diffuser, which is going to soften the light, spread it, and make it appear natural. So when I say artificial light, it's not like you are trying to make the light or like the entire photo be like studio photos and all of that. No, we are portraying it in a way that still makes it very natural. So I hope you understand all of this. Of course you do, because I'm the one explaining. And that's pretty much it for this video. Again, I'm David Joseph at ABCD David, macro wildlife photographer based in Nigeria. And because I'm so far from the camera, I'm using a 120mm equivalent lens, and I just wanted it to be this way. I hope I was in focus all through this video, or at least 90% of it. If you want to support the channel, there's a buy me a coffee link in the description, and every coffee means a lot to us. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.